We welcome back to the No Boring Stories podcast. I, of course, am Alex Street, and I am joined today by one of the most wonderful voices out there. I just love it whenever you come on your own podcast, whenever we get on a call. James Patrick, you are here, and we get to listen to you for the next little while, and I'm so happy about that. How are you?
I am doing great, Alex, but you know what? I feel like I have to bring my energy up to Alex Street level. I feel like I'm at a James Patrick, daily level, which is, maybe a 7 out of 10. This is my normal rhythm, but Alex, you're always at an 11. So you know what? I'm just gonna crank some volume up on this.
There we go
for you.
Okay. I mean, you've got this pink like light in the background here, and I think that already is creating these like nightclub vibes.
It's all about contrast. I'm dressed in black, so I needed something to contrast in the background so that I stand out in this video.
You see, this is what's so brilliant about you, because you know that we're going to dive into story. You know that we're going to talk about photography, and I know that for you, then contrast is such a big part of this. It's such a big part of how you do what you do. Am I right?
I think here's the thing that I find interesting about photography is that a lot will focus on one element of photography. And I'll use the example of a highlight. And so many artists or photographers will focus on what is the highlight of the image. Mm-hmm. Now, that's all well and great, but what they're forgetting is the shadow. They're forgetting that in order for that highlight to stand out, it must contrast against something. There must be an opposing shadow for it to actually be a highlight. And so you need both parts. It's where you're throwing light and where you're taking light away from, or where you're preventing light from hitting. And that's how you can start to construct some of the images that I've put out over, 20 years. But it's not just focusing on the one element. It's that balance between what is the highlight, but also what is that shadow? And how do you create that great contrast?
This is going to be good. I know it already. So we are, what you already know about me and my audience knows as well. My dad was a photographer for 40 years and he, he specialized in dance photography specifically. He also loved to photograph horses. And what I realized, he loved to photograph things in movement and to capture an image of something in movement so that the image, when you see that image, you see movement, even though it is a still. And specifically, whether it's in the motion, but he loved, as you talk about this contrast piece, he loved black and white more than anything. He's like, color, come on. Like, let's work with the light. Let's work with what we've got here. Let me show you how much I actually see here when color isn't playing a role in this. I want to talk about motion, but I also want to talk about is that kind of your feeling as well? You're like, give me the black and white so that I can really play off that contrast of highlight and shadow.
Depends on what I'm trying to say in an image. Yeah. Really, it's because sometimes color is an element that can lend itself to tell a story. And then sometimes color is just too distracting. There are times where, and I shoot everything in color unless I'm shooting film, and then I have to make a judgment call prior to loading the film into the camera. But when I'm shooting digital, everything is just natively shot in color. And then in post, I am trying to decide which direction I want to take this. Now, that being said, when I'm shooting, I actually start to see some things in color versus some things in black and white. And I'll see something and I already know this is going to be a black and white post. I was doing this shoot. It was this talk about, what you show versus what you don't show. It was a retired ATF agent who went undercover with the Hells Angels for years. And his work undercover helped bring down a lot of charges on different members of the Hells Angels. So being undercover, I wanted to tell this story of anonymity. And so the photos were very dark, and lots of the photos, I didn't even show his face at all. Like I did this one photo just of his hands. He had these, he was a biker, obviously being undercover in the Hells Angels, and had these really rough and weathered hands and fingers that were studded out with all these different metallic rings. And it was just this close up of his hands clasped together, did not show his face, once again, to add to the anonymity. As I'm shooting it, I'm like, there's no question. This is a monochromatic image. This is black and white. I do not want color distracting from the mood I'm trying to evoke. And I did another one of, just the silhouette of his face. So just putting a light behind him and his face was completely silhouette. So just the outline of his face. Once again, I was kind of thinking like, when you see those, those old CBS late night specials where they're interviewing someone who,
that's what I was thinking,
wants to keep their, so it was kind of like that, but his facial features and his facial hair were
like this.
Exactly. Yeah. They distort the voice, but his face was so distinct and he had this long goatee. So you knew who it was, and he had revealed his identity anyway. So it's not that it was a secret, but that image right there, I was like, this image is going to be in black and white. Now, converse that with, I was doing a shoot and it was this high concept fashion shoot, and the outfit was this hyper pink, not unsimilar from the background behind me. And we had this bright blue sky that we're working with. So now I'm working with this hyper pink with this pure bright blue sky. Color is integral in order to tell this story of this outfit, and using this really rich blue sky with this hot pink outfit, and using those two in concert with each other, that told a different story. So that was a long way to say, it depends.
Edit. It's so, I mean, there's so much to this, right? Like just the people that you've seen, the people that you dive into, and how you see, how do you capture, again, how do you take this image? And I talked about my dad taking photographs of people physically in motion, but what you're trying to capture there is someone's life story, the motion of this man's story in an image. And I think I'd love to get your insight on this, and this will be really helpful, I think, for our audience, because you play so many roles. You've got so many hats that you put on any given day, from award-winning photographer to a coach, a business coach, a marketer, a speaker, a podcast host yourself. So many different ways that you go about this. And I'd love to hear from the photographer's eye, looking at this in a marketing lens for marketing today. And let's think Instagram, people putting up images of themselves and putting posts to it. I'm just thinking about telling a story with an image. How can someone put up an image that of themselves that tells the story that they want to tell for their business? What's a good way to, something we should stay away from, and something that we should lean into when we're trying to tell a story with our images on a platform like that?
So I had this saying, not had, past tense, have, present tense, but I developed it about 10 years ago when I was really working to differentiate my work as a photographer, which is I don't take pictures. And that was the first part of it, and which catches people off guard, because like, what do you mean you're a photographer? You don't take pictures? I said, no, anyone can take a picture. In fact, it's actually much easier now to take a great looking picture. Okay. So I do not take pictures. Instead, I make images that work. And there's a difference. Taking a picture leaves it to chance. Taking a picture is, well, I'm going to set a bunch of stuff up and I'm going to, rip the camera and hopefully we get some shots. That's taking 20 photos with your friends, with the Instagram filter turned on, hoping one of them turns out where everyone has their eyes open. That's taking a picture. Making an image is understanding what you need to achieve before the camera ever comes out. Okay. So it's like, shooting magazine covers or magazine spreads. I know what I want to create and communicate before I ever am creating that image. And once I do that, then I can start to test and play and, experiment and have fun. But I want to make something that works, and making something that works, it imputes that I have to understand what it's being used for and how what this is doing is actually going to work. So if it's getting more people to pick up a magazine cover, great. I know how to make magazine cover images that get picked up. If it's creating an image that sells a product, well, now I have to understand what the product is, what the story of the product is. Like I was just doing this, the shoot for this wine company, and was trying to understand, all right, what's the flavor notes of the wine? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the marketing. What's your branding like? Tell me about the color palettes that really stand out to you, in order to create this product image for what they were trying to do. I had another one of, it was like a hair mask. company. It's like a product that you put on your hair and it hydrates your hair. So it's like, okay, what story do I want to tell? Well, I want water to be exploding around this hair mask, in order to show like how insanely hydrating this hair mask is. So it's like, okay, so I just build this construct to tell this story.
Right.
So
right.
What does this mean for an individual who wants to take photos to pop on their Instagram? Well, what are you trying to communicate to your audience?
Yeah,
because oftentimes I see a lot of disconnect between someone just take a random image of themselves, throw it up, and maybe it's a happy image or a casual image, or just a carefree image, and then the post is something really deep and really vulnerable and really open and transparent. These are not in alignment with each other.
Yes.
There's a disconnect here. So what is the message you're trying to say? Start there. And the way I look, especially online, is you have your job online. It's not really about you, even though you might use yourself as the context, or you might use yourself as the example. Ultimately, it's about, what does this mean to your audience? And your audience wants one of three things. I'll say 3.5. The first is they could be entertained. Okay. So, and if that's not your bandwidth, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I don't consider myself the most entertaining person on social media, but the other two are important. One would be inspiration. Okay. So are you using your platform to inspire your audience? And the third would be information. You're using your platform to educate your audience. And the kind of the half one, or the 3.5 would be connection. So are you using your platform as a way to connect individuals together? All right. So those would be your 3 to 3.5 options. So in this post, what is the mission? Are you informing? Are you entertaining? Or are you inspiring? And then allow the creative to come from there, and try to marry together both the message you're trying to put out through your text with the creative, the image, whether it's an image, a graphic, a logo, whatever it is. But there should be some communication between those two, so they're not divorced from each other.
It's interesting. I mean, it's such valuable stuff. And I again, before we really just keep the train moving, like, go back, write those things down, get those, see the connection here. What you said, I think the key word there was aligned. If like the caption and the image are not aligned, we do sniff that out. We recognize that more than maybe those who are posting will think they do. They're like, I got to capture your attention. And so I'll do that with my big smiley face. And then I'll get really real with my comment. You're like, this, I don't know. It's something about the story doesn't align here. And I think that's so critical. And it's also really tricky, because we feel like what we have to do, again, is that attention piece, that we're just fighting for attention. And what you said was so amazing about the magazine rack, because you're like, I get it. If I want to sell a magazine, I know what kind of an image to put on the cover. And so that's get attention, get them to get this so that they open it up and find it. With the marketing, with the hair, product, you're like, I want to capture attention, but also I'm really trying to sell a transformation here. I'm trying to show how quickly this will transform your hair. And that's what's going on there. So I just think that it's probably easier than we think it is. And maybe the problem is that we're not giving it a moment's thought to match the image with the story that we're telling. And would that be fair? Is that kind of along your lines?
Yeah. So here's the problem I think that we're dealing with is in its infancy, the idea of social media and the way to stand out from a commercial perspective, because let's look at it. Like, we originally did not join social media umpteen years ago with the intention of pushing commerce. We joined social media with the intention of connecting with others. That was the original thought process. But as we developed ourselves as entrepreneurs, we thought, well, we're connecting with others. This would be a great way to connect others with what we're trying to sell. All right. Now, the problem comes in two parts. Number one is that people really don't like being sold to. They love buying, but they don't like being sold to. Okay. So there's a difference. So now this platform that we're going to remember what I said, we want to be informed. We want to be inspired. We want to be entertained. We want to connect. I didn't say we want to be sold to, because we don't. Now, those four things could lead to sales. Absolutely. But if that's the forefront of your messaging, I'm going to tune you out. Because guess what? There's a lot of people selling right now, and I'm tired of seeing it. I am inundated with advertising from the second I wake up to the second I go to sleep. I even noticed that within the last week and a half or 2 weeks, like I love watching woodworking videos. I don't know. Maybe it's a sign of my age. Maybe it's a sign of fatherhood, but watching people like work on wood projects and put together tables is the most relaxing thing to me.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't build your child's crib with your own bare hands, what do you really do?
Then who are you? You lose your father card. So I noticed within the last 2 weeks now, Facebook Watch, the YouTube of Facebook, is now putting ads right in the middle of their videos. So that's new within the last 2 weeks. So I'm seeing ads constantly. That's the point. So because I'm seeing ads constantly, and because there's so many people fighting for my attention, I've gotten really good at tuning stuff out. And when I say I mean everyone has gotten really good at tuning stuff out. We have so much fatigue when it comes to who we follow, what they're posting. Oh, it's another promotional post. It's another sale. How is this informative? How is this inspirational? How is this entertaining? How is this connecting me with others? It's not. So I'm just going to start tuning out. So if you're in a position where you, as you said, where you're fighting for attention, that's a bad place to be. Because if you're fighting for attention, the thought is, well, I just need a bigger microphone. I just need to speak louder. I just need to speak more. I just need to put more content out. But guess what? I got a mute button. So I don't care how big your megaphone is. I'm going to mute you and I am done. Literally on Instagram, it is called the mute button. And that is it. I don't even have to unfollow you. I can just mute you. Okay. So stop fighting for attention. Stop trying to use your content to fight for attention. Here's what I want you to do instead. Figure out, what does my audience need from me? What is it that they need from me that only I can provide? Give them that and you will earn their awareness. Stop fighting for attention. I'd rather you earn awareness.
Gosh, that's a good one. Did you have that written down beforehand? Because
I wrote it down as you were talking on this little, I had to grab a little sticky note because I wasn't going to remember it. And I was like,
that needs, now you got it. Now that's coming out. That's good. That's going to be, that is a great one. And if you don't start saying it, I'm going to start saying it. Stop fighting for attention. Start earning awareness. Is that what you said? Was it earning?
That's not, yeah. Well, because
that works.
To earn something, you have to give something. You know, we can't demand attention. We can't demand awareness. Pay attention to me. You know, guess what? If what you do does not matter to me, I don't care how big of an ad or billboard you're putting up. I'm not going to pay attention.
This is what's so interesting about this whole dynamic, the whole thing, and it is because, yeah, we're fighting for attention and feel like it's, how do we do it? How do we possibly get someone to be aware, to become aware of what I'm doing? How do I grow that audience and create a larger awareness? And as you were saying that, I was thinking specifically, like, look at Netflix, look at any streaming service and how many shows are on there. And occasionally it'll show me stuff that I'm like, what was this? When is this? Like, they have stuff on there that is not high quality stuff. And I may not know that because I only watch, stuff that's on my list and is immediately kind of in my purview. But there's so much on there. And so how does something like Squid Game show up and all of a sudden gain or earn our awareness without even, I say without even trying, but it was a cultural phenomenon that came and hit and earned everyone's eyeballs on it. Whereas there's other stuff out there that by all means deserves our viewing. There's phenomenal films out there and television being created, but they're not going to get seen because what? Did they just tell a better story? Did they get more people involved? Did they spread a better message? When it comes to that sort of stuff, that's what's interesting to me about the image and how we tell a story. And though your image that you create, James, may objectively be better, it may not get seen next to
100%.
Someone else's. And is that just an injustice? Is that the way that this works? What are your thoughts on that?
It'd be hard to look at it as an injustice because that makes what we do a zero-sum game, which is like, well, it's out of my control. And if it's out of your control, what's the point of ever doing anything? Right. I don't,
Yes.
and it becomes this uphill battle of, well, I'm always fighting against the algorithm. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my post today got over 100 likes. Wow. I did well because my post yesterday only got 44. So
Right.
I feel good about myself.
Right.
Right. But the problem is that doesn't change my bank account. It's
Mhm.
not like I win an Instagram award of the day. Congratulations, James. You doubled your engagement in a single day. You went from 44 to over 100. We're giving you a gold star. It doesn't matter. It's a
Yeah.
vanity metric that doesn't translate. So, when I think about attention, I think about, I want my audience to be able to connect with me without anything separating me from them. All right. And on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, I can't control that. All right. That is outside of my circle of control. My podcast is different though. Your podcast is different
Mm-hmm.
because as of now, there's no algorithm separating the subscribers of your show from being served your show as of now. Okay. I mean, that could change, sure. But same with an email list. As
Yeah.
of now, there is no algorithm separating. If someone signs up for your email list because there was enough value to join it, if there's enough value to subscribe to your podcast, if there's enough value to opt in for your SMS number, there's nothing separating them from receiving your content. So that's where I spend most of my time focusing, is trying to give my audience a reason to engage with me off of a platform that I don't control.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't control it, why am I getting so angry about it? Like, why is that such a place of frustration? Like, I don't pay for it. I don't even control it. Even when I do pay for it, even when I buy ads, I barely control the ads and how those are being served. I mean, it's kind of done through so many shades of layers. It's interesting, but I'd rather have conversations elsewhere, and then it's more of a true democratization where the best work will. But even then, Alex, I'm not the most creative photographer. I know this. I'm not the most technically skilled photographer. I know this, but I'm willing to work harder to add more value to my audience and to my clients. And I believe that's why my work has started to catch on.
This is good. Okay. I think we're just going to hang out in this today. Maybe we'll have another conversation where we dive into your story, your journey, but I want to keep jamming out on this because I think you're bringing so much value on how we should approach our work today and our work as online business owners, our work as creatives and showing up. And again, what I really got from you there is there's a sense of not looking at the finish line, because what is a finish line for an artist? What is a finish line for a creator? Is it to get your work hung up? Well, then what? There is no, because then there's another thing that hits your mind. There's another idea that shows up. You think that Spielberg just quit after winning Oscars for Schindler's List? Well, no, of course not. He had to keep making things because he keeps feeling these creative energies and vibes and thinks, I have a gift I need to share with the world. And so when we're looking at this, like, if I only got this, if I get to 100 likes, wow, that'll feel great. Well, obviously it doesn't. It's not enough to stop us because we are people who want to keep creating. And I think that as far as this storytelling journey goes, we are constantly creating within our story what we do. And you are saying, I'm trying to create conversations that keep driving people towards better art, better connectivity, a better sense of self, better sense of world. And I'm doing that in whatever platform I can best do that in. But what matters most, and I see this in your work, I see this in how you show up, what matters most for you is its value and its effort. And you're not attaching your effort to the outcome, you're attaching your effort to the value.
That's a good way to put it. That I could not have said that better.
I think it's so valuable what you're bringing right here. And that's it. I just know that you're giving everything that you have to this conversation right now. And that shows. And that is what's going to play. That's what's going to create longevity for your fan base, for you, for your followers, for your clients, everybody. They're going to come back to you because, yeah, you're trying to create something in this moment. that lasts?
I came up with this 3-part process on how I want to cultivate not just work, but life. And the first part is vision, like have a vision for where you want to go. All right. So whether that, where you want to go in life, where you want to go in business, where you want to go on this project, what's the vision? Okay. From there, with vision, you can have purpose. It's hard to have purpose without vision because you're rudderless, right? Vision gives you the direction. Purpose is the emotion we pour into the work that we do every day. It's showing up even when we're tired. It's delivering even though we don't feel our best selves because we know someone's counting on it. That's purpose. All right. And then the third is legacy, because when you have vision, when you live with purpose, or when you create with purpose, you leave behind legacy. And legacy can be like, I think about the work I create, and I don't look back on my work really ever, but others might. Okay. And if I create something that tells a strong enough story, that could stay long after I stop creating, or even when I'm on to the next project, that image stays out there, that piece of work stays out there. Or I look at, I'm a new father, that's legacy. Okay. So as I start to impart life and experience onto this child, I cultivate legacy. And one of the things I'm doing is I started writing this journal before he was born. I started writing it, and I'm still continuing it, of lessons and experiences that I've had, and I write them in real time into this journal. And the hope is that when he's old enough, I can give him this book that would then be filled with this collection of stories and experiences that I don't want to forget to impart on him, and he would have this to take. So I mean, this is the culmination of trying to craft a legacy, and that is how I kind of look at everything that we're trying to achieve right here.
Well, even in that, you're like, okay, well, the reason that you're journaling, so you're journaling, you're like, I'm in this today, I'm journaling. Why? Because before I even picked up the journal, I had a vision. I had a vision that I can hand my son a book when he's old enough, when I'm dying, whatever it is, that journey that covered the journey of, first few years of this experience that I call life, that I've gone through. So that's the purpose. You're like, here I am writing. This is the middle stage. Here I am writing in my journal today. Why? Back here, because I had a vision, and ahead, because it's going to leave a legacy far beyond whatever I could say to it. And that, again, let's just talk about story. That journal is telling its own story of what you just painted right there. Vision, purpose, legacy is this like 3-part story, right? It's part act 1, act 2, act 3. Here's the vision. Here's where we're going. Here's the purpose. What's really going on here, and what's this going to require of us? And oh my goodness, all the tension, all the tough moments to get through this, to actually choose to get up and write in this journal today. But why? What's this resolution? Well, that's the legacy. And so even in that act, as you say, it seems like it's just it's a beautiful thing that I'm doing with myself, but it required this 3-part story that now you're actually entering into every day, seeing the end of the story as you write down with pen and paper.
Yeah, that's really cool. I never looked at it in my own framework, but it fits in so beautifully. Thank you.
Well, that's, my goodness, it's so good. This is, how often do you, as a creative, and again, in all these different roles, I'm thinking, and clearly I'm thinking story arc, I'm thinking, 3 acts, 5 acts, whatever the journey, I'm thinking hero's journey. I'm constantly thinking this. When someone is talking, this is literally my job. They're talking, they're telling me their story in one-on-one coaching. And I'm just thinking, what's the arc here? They're telling me devastating moments in their lives, traumatic experiences. And I'm seeing them through this filter of, okay, I hear the details here, but I'm looking past them to, what would this look like as a script? Like that's where I'm going with it, however insensitive that might be. But I'm fully engaged in doing that. How often, like, where does that play in for you? Just this aspect of storytelling for, again, you told us about kind of photography, how you're trying to tell a story there. Are you constantly thinking this? like I am? Are you sick like me or what?
And well, I actually don't. If it's a sickness, then you and I both need to be admitted, because there's a beauty in it. Truly, it's
like you see something, you see the world differently. That's what I've realized. I'm walking around and I see the world cinematically.
it's almost, you're able to connect dots that people didn't even know were on the same map.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what is, I find so truly amazing about it, and helpful and beneficial, which is, yeah. And I have to do this more in my work as a coach, which is when someone is trying to bring their brand to market,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a disconnect between who they say they are, what they're providing, who they're providing it for, why, most importantly, why they're doing it. And if those pieces aren't entrenched with one another, it's too easy to be confused as a potential consumer and move on to the next thing that has more clarity. So helping people find these connecting points, or how these things work in symphony together as opposed to against each other, or unpack. And this is what I see a lot. So many entrepreneurs will invest time, money, energy, emotion into something they're doing. They can't even tell you why they're doing it.
Yeah.
To be able to actually peel those layers back and be like, oh, we just found your why. This was your purpose. And I mean, we've had people they just fall to tears. They're like, I've never been able to conceptualize it like that. I'm like, but here's the thing. It's like, I didn't write this story. You've just been living it. You just had no idea. You just never looked at it from that angle.
Preach. This is it. This is it. We are doing this. We're doing such similar work. And that's, I hear that so often, right? I'll repeat someone's story back to them that they just told me. We'll do in 90 minutes, that we'll do whatever it is. And I'll say, hey, this is what I just heard. This is how I see it. And they say, my goodness, I love that. That sounded amazing. Can you just come and speak this out? I was like, look, I get it. I've practiced in this, but it's not my words. Mm-hmm. Or they're like, can I take that? I was like, of course you can take it. It's your story.
It's your life.
Literally your words that you told me. And I just wrote down here. I just articulated it. I just spoke it. So then the effort becomes inviting more people to speak their own story, to speak their own journey, to see that whole piece, to not stop at the purpose, but to go back to the vision, to go back the before and start articulating that, speaking that in this world. I mean, that I feel like that's our mission. That's my mission. And I feel like it sounds like that's what you're doing with these clients that you're working with as well in that framework.
What I find is so interesting, I'm curious if you run into this too, is so many people will get started on something. They'll go really deep into, maybe it's a project, a business, but they've never actually unpacked why they're doing it, what their intentions are with it, what the purpose is, where they want to take it. They're just in it and they think, well, I love doing this. This is what I'm doing. But they never actually conceptualize why they even started doing it to begin with. Or they may only have a surface answer and they never actually pause to start to peel back those layers to find that meat in the center of that inspiration.
What would you say is a red flag for somebody who's in that situation, but maybe not know it? Like, what's something that you hear that then you ask a question and they respond with blank, which makes you go, oh, you haven't thought of this. You haven't absorbed, this isn't coming from your core, is it? What's that red flag?
It's the shift or the chasm between generalism or being a generalist and a specialist. And it's, well, I like to serve all would be one, I want my product to be for everyone, or, I work with all sorts of clients, or, I do a whole bunch of things. Okay. And they like rifle off, an encyclopedia's worth of services that they can do. And it's like, well, what are you known for? Well, I don't know, and so it's like, there's that inspecificity. And I'll give you an example, because even though I was a photographer, I ran into this problem myself early in my career where I shot everything. And when someone says, well, what sort of photographer are you? I'm like, I do portraits, I do corporate work, I do fashion, I do events, I do family photos, I do product photography, I do architecture.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, I'm going to shoot it. But here's the problem: is how do you tell that to someone else? Oh, James, he's a photographer. What does he shoot? Everything, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not known for anything. It doesn't. There's nothing sticky there, and there's no real intention behind what I'm creating. I'm only creating because there's another paycheck around the corner. I'm too afraid to say no to work. But here's the problem: when times got real bad back in 2008, I lost most of my clients. Either they went out of business or they got a lot more strategic about their hiring. And why would you hire a generalist when you can hire a specialist for the same price? If you're doing a fashion campaign, why hire the guy that could maybe do it? Instead, for the same price, hire the guy that can absolutely do it, because this is what he specializes in. That's where my business started to really take a decline. It was only at that point that I said, well, what is the work I want to create as a photographer? Who are the clients for that work? How can I be the best in this ecosystem? What do I need to have in my book to show these clients? And it was making that decision and saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is why what I do matters. That's when the work started to take off.
And this became the specialist as a fitness photographer specifically. Like, there
wasn't even fitness photography. I used to call it sports portraiture, and that molded into fitness photography. And the shots were the same. The nomenclature is what changed, because, fitness or the fitness industry became that entered into the zeitgeist. That became the thing that I could call it. There wasn't a good name for it at the start. I did sports portraiture. But I found all the clients that would hire it, all the ad agencies that would hire, all the magazines that would publish it. I made a book of work and I shopped it to all those people and said, this is what I do. This is what I want to be known for. And that is when it started to gain traction.
I want to talk about what you want to be known for in just a second. My father-in-law is blowing leaves outside the window here. Can you hear that? Can you hear the gas thing going?
I can't. No.
Okay. Let's assume that it's not picking up in the mic then. Okay. Well, let's kind of wrap up the conversation here a little bit with that idea of what do you want to be known for, generalist and specialist. I think this will be something that when we talk about no boring stories, I think this is probably the root of the issue. Why is a story boring? Because it's too general. There's too many details, all covering all kinds of things, when really we're afraid to get down really specific and zone in on one specific moment story. Some of the best movies out there focus on like an actual hour-long time span, right? Like a short time span where you're like, wow, let's tell the story of all these people in this moment, rather than a really long, drawn-out thing. You think about generalist and specialist, and what do you want to be known for? How can someone call themselves a specialist? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've never done this before, or if you're just sort of going, I think so much of this is fear of leaning into that and saying, yeah, okay, sure, this is what I do, but I'm no expert at it. I'm not an expert fitness sports portraiture photographer. I really am just I kind of do everything. And they're afraid to lean into that. Is that all it is? It's just getting over the fear of it and saying, pick something and go with it? Or is there more to it?
It's a chicken or egg thing, because we want to do certain types of work and we want to get hired for certain types of work, but no one's going to hire us for work that we can't show that we can do. But how do we show what we can do if no one's giving us the opportunity to do it? Right. Yes. And so you just kind of get stuck in, well, I guess I'll just wait. All right. Well, that opportunity is not going to come. I remember when I worked in marketing, we were trying to get projects with this one client, and the client said, well, we don't want to give you work because you don't have enough experience with our company. Well, how do we get any experience with your company if you don't give us work? Right. So it became this never ending cycle. But as entrepreneurs, we can control that a little bit more. So no one was going to hire me for sports portraiture, fitness photography, when I said, this is what I want to do. Why? Because I had nothing to show that I did it. All right. So what did I say? I went out and I made a book of work. I just went out and shot the work I wanted to shoot. I showed clients, this is what I want to do. If all that was in my portfolio, like I worked as a photo editor, and I'd have someone come to me with the portfolio. Let's just say it was all fashion. And they said, I want to be hired for dramatic portraits. No. Not happening. Yeah. Why? I could do it really well. Then show me you can do it really well, because all I'm seeing is fashion in here. So I created the book of work that I wanted to be hired for. It's like, that idiom, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. Same with the work that you're doing. I had no experience shooting fitness work. I had to go make it. I had to go create it and cultivate it. And that's how I was able to make a book of work. And that's how I was able to take that book and get one client, leaned into the next client and the next and next, so on. Same with public speaking. I wanted to do a lot of public speaking, but I did not have any experience presenting anywhere. So why would anyone hire me to speak at their conference? Right. So I didn't just join a Toastmasters. I actually founded a Toastmasters club, and I got lots of experience speaking in this Toastmasters club. Then I would do all their Toastmasters competitions, which got me in front of people who might want me to speak at their club, which got me in front of people who might need a speaker to speak at some small event, which led to a medium-sized event, which led to me speaking coast to coast United States. Stop waiting for opportunities to come to you and just create something to show this is what I can do.
Mic frickin' drop. That we're just so scared of it. I think and so lean into that just right here, because that is a powerful message. That is a powerful story. We just heard so much of your actual story. Look, I am who I am today. Why? Because I chose to. Because I chose to lean into it. At any given one of those moments, any given, role that you're playing, it's because at some point I chose to found a Toastmasters club. I chose to create a book of work. I chose to do this so that I could, again, because of your vision, I think. And so just why aren't we all doing that? What are we scared of?
I think there's two things. The first is that we have a incorrect view of confidence and fear, because it's like, if only, it's like, oh, wow, I've heard Alex's story a lot, and, he's been able to overcome and achieve so much. He must be so confident. Everything I've shared over the last 45 minutes has been when things worked out. James must have a lot of confidence because things worked out for him. And look how well it worked out. Guess what? I'm as scared today as I was when I started my business 20 years ago. I'm terrified all the time. What if this doesn't work out? What if this fails? All the time I'm terrified. There is no confidence. Confidence is hindsight only. You do not have confidence before you create something. I am terrified. What if this doesn't work? I still get nervous going into big projects, like photo projects. I've been shooting for 20 years, but I still get nervous. Oh gosh, I hope I get this right. What if, because, trying to capture, you get a fraction of a second. I mean, that's a photo, a fraction of a second. If you don't get it, maybe the light doesn't fire, maybe you're a split second too early or too late, you don't get the shot. And that there's that pressure there, but I thrive off that pressure. But that's the thing, is we look at fear and confidence. We're like, well, I don't have the confidence, so I can't do it. Guess what? We are scared out of our minds, but we have the gift to know that even though we're scared, it's going to be okay at the end, that it's going to be okay at the end, that this might not work, but I can still check my pulse, and there it goes. And the other thing is that I don't want listeners of the show to hear this and think, wow, he really hit a lot of home runs in this. All we've talked about are the things that worked out in this. There are countless stories that did not work out. I've lost lots of money on launches. I've tried to do things and fell flat on my face. I've embarrassed myself, and it has hurt, and it's hurt a lot. There have been losses that broke me down, but yet I'm still here, and I'm still launching, and I'm still creating. Because if everything you do is if every launch you have, if every post that you do, if everything that you create is a life or death game, you're going to die a lot more than you'll ever lose. But here's the difference. Most of those failures or losses or missteps or things where we just missed the boat completely, I don't remember most of them. I remember the ones that left an imprint enough to learn from, but most of them I don't really remember. Why? Not focused on it. Don't need it. It doesn't shape me. I get shaped by the things I learned from A, and then also by the things that worked out B. All right. Those are the things that shape me, not all the missteps that didn't amount to anything. I've already forgotten them. And that right there is what I want people to remember, is that number one, confidence is not true. It is a lie. Don't wait till you have confidence, because you'll wait forever. And then number two, not everything's going to work. And that's also okay. It's okay to go through things that suck. You will get through it.
And quite frankly, that's what makes for an interesting story. Because you're right. We could sit here and people could go like, oh, James, wow, what a great character. Like, what a great guy. Thanks so much for all your info. But what you just did right there is create an element to who you are, the reality of who you are, James, which is a flawed character.
100%.
And as soon as we introduce, look at any film, any book that you really love, you can love the character, you fall in love with them when you see their flaws, you see their failures, you see the moments when they struggle, especially if they put themselves into that struggle, you go, oh, okay, good. Like, they're just like me. I wonder how they're going to come out of this. And I wonder how, and I wonder if maybe when I struggle, I could do the same thing. And that flawed approach is probably a really good summary of everything that we just talked about here. Whether it's the journal, or it's the Instagram posts, or it's the shadows and highlights, or it's the creating your own journey here and choosing what you want to be known for. I think in all of it, really, this comes down to, are you trying? Like, just give it a shot. Just get out there and try it, because yes, you are flawed. So of course it's not going to work the first time, but you're going to try all of these different methods. And you might miss a day of journaling, James. Believe it or not, you might actually not capture all the moments and all the wisdom of these years for your son going forward. I hate to tell you. But in that is where actually the story and the humanity comes. And that's what we relate to most.
I think I see so many people trying to feign perfectionism through their outward appearance and trying to show this pristine example of the life that they live, while inside that might be tearing themselves apart. And I think what you and I are saying is, no, put light on that too, because that's also that. Hey, how many podcasts have you done of your own?
Yeah, we're going to be somewhere around 30. I did 100 of another episode of another show. Yeah, I don't know. Let's say 200.
But when you started, maybe a little scratchy, right?
Wait.
Maybe a little rough around the edges. Hey, guess what? Me too. My first podcast sucked. I remember some of our first live interviews. We couldn't get the microphones to work. We still released the episodes. They were terrible, awful. Guess what, though? Still recording podcasts, doing way better. My first blog article sucked. My first photographs sucked. They sucked. They were crap. I had to get through a lot of really bad photos. Like, I mean, just look at one photo shoot. I was doing a cover shoot recently, and we fired off maybe, 800 frames. Only one of those photos makes it on a cover, one of 800. So if you look at a success-failure ratio, 799 of those photos were failures. They didn't make the cover. Only one did. But guess what? The only thing that mattered was the one.
God. James, this has been fabulous, because we have talked about, just as we started, the highlights of it all, and also have this has been a masterclass in shining light on parts, and also recognizing that we're paying just as much attention to the shadows here, and it all matters. The contrast of it all really is what brings us all together. And I am so grateful for you, for your friendship, for your mentorship to so many people, and the collaboration that we've been able to have together. And I'm just so grateful for what you brought to me and my audience today, and how to specifically tell better stories in all aspects of life. And there's been a lot of value today. Thank you.
That feeling is so extraordinarily mutual. And don't you forget that I caught that full circle plug that you just did with the light and the shadow. That was clever AF, sir. I literally said, I was like, whoa, he just brought back something from an hour ago. I was not expecting that. Kudos to you, sir. That if I could take my hat off under these headphones, I would take my hat off for you. That was so well done. Sign of a true host.
I love it. Fabulous. It's good. We'll leave it there. Clever AF. I love that. Thanks, James.